I'm going to stay in gold to avoid a 5% loss. The opportunity cost is not owning gold, it's owning US dollars and losing 5%. Yes, you get 2% back, but inflation is 7%. So what the Fed is talking about doing is too little, too late to derail the gold bull market. In fact, it's going to initiate, I think, the next leg up when the markets come to terms with this reality. But also what the markets have been focusing on is this Fed's fight against inflation, right? Because gold is an inflation hedge. Well, now after years of denying that inflation existed and then pretending that it was transitory, now the Fed has finally acknowledged that there's a problem and it's going to solve it with these rate hikes. And so people think, well, if the Fed's going to fight inflation, that's negative for gold because, the Fed is going to win this fight and therefore the inflation problem is going to be solved. And so I don't need to own gold. Well, when the markets realize that these incremental tiny rate hikes are not nearly enough to stop inflation, because the only way the Fed could stop inflation would be to get out in front of it. You need interest rates that are higher than the inflation rate to actually reduce it. What the Fed is talking about doing is reducing the amount of gasoline that is pouring on the inflation fire. That still means the fire is going to get bigger. Even if it gets bigger more slowly, it's still going to get bigger. But I have a feeling that it may get bigger even faster. And when the markets realize that these rate hikes aren't doing any good and that inflation is getting worse, that's another reason to buy gold. In fact, what is probably going to happen is these rate hikes, while they're not big enough to stop inflation, they are big enough to prick the bubble in a lot of these speculative assets that had been inflated with 0% interest rates. Because as I've been saying, when you develop an addiction to a certain amount of monetary heroin, even if you get monetary heroin, but you get a smaller dose, it's not enough for your habit. And I think that's going to happen in the markets. You're going to see a lot of stocks coming down. This is going to be problematic. There could be some financial blowups as a result of widening credit spreads and falling asset prices. And ultimately, it's going to bleed into the real economy. We are not just headed for inflation, but stagflation. And in the face of that, the Fed is ultimately going to do an about face. It's going to start cutting interest rates again and restarting the QE program, even though the inflation problem has gotten worse. Now, of course, when that happens, gold is going to go ballistic. But between now and then, take advantage of the misperception in the market that these rate hikes, if they actually come, are bearish for gold. That's keeping a temporary lid on the price of gold. Eventually, reality is going to blow that lid off. But in the meantime, buy yourself some gold. In fact, maybe even better, buy some silver as well, because the impact on silver has been even greater than the impact on gold, and therefore they're giving away silver at an even cheaper price than they're giving away gold. This sale is not going to go on forever. When you get a gift horse, don't look it in the mouth. Just take advantage of it. And what we are getting right now is the mother of all gift horses from a market that totally doesn't understand the implications of what's going on at the Fed and what it portends for inflation, the dollar, and the price of gold. The markets have been bracing for the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates at least 3, if not 4 times this year. And the conventional wisdom is that these rate increases are somehow bearish for the price of gold. And that's one of the reasons that the price of gold hasn't gone up. It's still been hanging out around $1,800 an ounce. Well, first of all, the fact that the price of gold hasn't gone down, despite this almost universally held belief that these rate hikes are somehow negative for gold, is in and of itself a positive sign. After all, if gold's not going down, well, eventually it's going to go up. But the more important factor is to understand that not only aren't these projected rate hikes a negative for gold, they're actually going to be a positive. So let me explain. First of all, the rationale for why rate hikes is bad for gold is actually pretty simple, because gold doesn't produce a yield. So there's always an opportunity cost when you own gold, and that is the yield that you forego by not owning dollars, because if you have dollars, you can put them in the bank and earn interest. But if you just deposit your gold into a safe, you don't earn anything. In fact, you may have to pay somebody to store your gold.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race, you're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Dan, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address, because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I intend, how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Dan.